All right, well, we've got a huge topic here today. What is the Democrats' endgame when it comes to how they handle Donald Trump with all of the indictments? You've got Tucker Carlson coming out and saying, we are speeding towards assassination. Obviously, they have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just cannot have it. Now, listen, I like Tucker, but I think these people are too smart to kill him. And what I mean by that, if they kill him, that's basically admitting that Trump won. Trump becomes a martyr. A lot of independents probably back the Republican Party because they see how ridiculous it is. And it's very hard to do something like that in the world we live in. This is not the 1960s. You take a look at the Jeffrey Epstein thing. You know, Jeffrey Epstein probably right after he died, his fame, it's like 1/1000th of what Trump's fame is. So could you imagine if something happened to Trump and they tried to set it up like, oh, Trump just had an overdose or something. Nobody would buy it, and it would really galvanize the country against the Democratic Party. What they're going to do, and this is what they've already done, they're going to bog him down in all of these indictments, indictment after indictment after indictment, criminal, 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 jail, jail, jail. I actually think it won't get to the point where, because there's also the idea maybe they give Trump the ultimatum if they can get him good enough to where it's either, oh, you're going to prison or you have to drop out. Either or. Would Trump go to jail and still try and run? Would he just drop out and endorse Vivek Ramaswamy? Would DeSantis be in the picture at that point? Would Nikki Haley be in the picture? I mean, I'll say right here, right now, when it comes to the Republican candidates, Trump is so far ahead. The only way he loses that support, well, he doesn't lose the support, is if something happens to him in terms of him getting indicted, him facing jail time. I feel like if I were a Democratic strategist, you know, I don't know these people because they're just so obsessed with Trump, but it's like I would almost want to face Trump in the general election because there's so many people who just will not vote for him. And maybe if you send up a different candidate, they'll reconsider. And with how bad Biden is with his approval rating, I mean, if you've got a neg 13, negative 14 approval rating, you're just not going to be reelected. History says that. So Tucker Carlson comes out and says maybe they kill him. I just don't think it would be too obvious. Everyone would know he would become a martyr. And people will be like, this is so ridiculous. We're voting Republican for sure, whether it's DeSantis, Vivek, whoever, because, you know, you can just not have something like that, and it'll be so obvious. Remember the day and age that we live in now with access to so much information. I mean, that would be the biggest event pretty much ever if something happened and they tried to say, oh, it was an accident or, you know, a heart attack. I mean, could you imagine? That would be the biggest story ever. So I can understand what Tucker Carlson is saying, but I think they're going to try and do it their way, which is the phony criminal justice system. And it's all these liberal judges who are giving Trump, you've got to appear the day before Super Tuesday. And it's funny how these liberal judges who don't care about crimes in their city, now they care so much about Trump, and they really care about the law now, when we've seen case after case where there's actual crimes being committed. You know, you'll see people raping other people, they get like 20 years in prison. Meanwhile, Trump's looking at like 600 or 700 years. It's such a phony system, and it brings out the worst in America. And you can tell Trump has triggered these people so bad. And my hope is that independent people stand up, do some critical thinking, and realize, and I think they are, because we're seeing polls that are very close, and if the popular vote is close, it's going to help Trump. I'm not saying polls are any indication. We should, throw out most polls, I agree, but still, the idea is, we saw what happened with the Russian probe from 2016 to 2018. Yes, Hillary Clinton is an election denier. Absolutely, that's what she is. She denied the election. It's funny how they flipped that, and now Trump's a threat to democracy because he denies the election, but Hillary Clinton did it for 2 years. No one cares. And by the way, that was a whole conspiracy theory. They never said it was a conspiracy theory because they didn't want to discredit the Russian probe. But the Russian probe comes out. It's totally fake. Okay, whatever. The 2020 Hunter Biden laptop comes out. Oh, big tech was in collusion. with the FBI and the CIA. That's a huge story, and that was going to, depending on would that have swung the election, it really doesn't matter. You cannot interfere with an election like that, especially when it's an October surprise that close to election day, and they totally did. And now, it's a documented fact. Yes, Zuckerberg said they told us something was coming. Take it down, remove it. It's totally fake. It's Russian interference. And of course, the Hunter Biden laptop was real. So you've got the Russian probe, you've got the Hunter Biden laptop, you've got the sham January 6th hearings, the committee, when they would do the committee at like 8 o'clock at night because they were trying to get people to watch on prime time. What a kangaroo court that is. And they don't even interview any of the actual police from January 6th. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we let 400 hillbillies break into the Capitol. Let's not look at our police presence and investigate that. No. It's all about Trump. And they really cannot get Trump for anything on January 6th unless you have proof of Trump telling people to go storm the Capitol, him saying you need to show a sign of strength. And listen, I'm not even this big Trump supporter, but you're not going to be able to get him unless he is telling his supporters to storm the Capitol. Him saying show a sign of strength does not equate and make him guilty for his supporters storming the Capitol. So look, I think a lot of independent people in this country are starting to realize, and that's why Biden's approval rating is so bad and people just can't cope with it. But this is just hilarious. And I understand the pandemic had something to do with it. But look at this. Trump versus Biden events. This is crowd size of the events. And I realize you can say, well, Biden, they had the pandemic measures. Honestly, I think Biden probably would have, this same crowd size per event, even without the pandemic restrictions. When you look at Biden, some of these events, like the field speech, you see that field speech in Wilmington, Delaware. I was like, there's no way that this actually exists. It says 3 people attended this. So I Googled, I said, September 14th, 2020 Biden speech, and there's Biden in the thumbnail in a frickin' field giving a speech about climate change to 3 people. It is crazy how much the pandemic just completely changed the 2020 election to where Biden didn't even have to run. He didn't. He's giving speeches to 3 people, and they've got like these circles around. You can't touch anyone because of the pandemic. That's the other reason where I think they're probably going to have to go with someone new, just because Biden, I'm not sure he's capable of running a campaign while it's not during a pandemic. He doesn't have the excuse to get out of it. He has to actually go up, speak, do events. He could really cut a lot of those things short. He didn't do it as much, not a lot of public appearances. That's the whole idea of him winning from his basement because of the pandemic happening right in the heat of it. When we were going to vote in 2020, it was like illegal to go out without a mask. Think about that. We're just in such a different time than that. And you do have to wonder, would Biden have won without all of that crap happening? And then you've got this stuff with Biden, the $700 going to the residents of Hawaii after the wildfires, comparing that to Ukraine. Listen, this is a terrible look for Biden, whether you agree with Ukraine or not. It's just not going to be a good look at all. And I know people are saying, well, Hawaii's still going to vote for Biden in 2024. Yes, that is true. I don't see them swinging 30 points, but still, just on a national level, seeing this type of lack of support for Hawaii when we see month and month go by and it's $24 billion check. It's a $12 billion check. It's just crazy. 1.9 million total going to Hawaii for their aid. And this is a very democratic country, but you don't see Republicans saying, you guys remember the Texas ice storm when Texas's power grid went down and all of the left celebrated because Texas is a Republican state? That's the mental immaturity we're dealing with here. And then you've got this whole situation is very strange, viral, not real. Tiffany Gomez finally gets asked what she saw on the plane. So this is a good example of where we are today with social media. So I'm sure a lot of people remember, this was a super viral clip of the woman on the plane who says she saw something, she gets off of it, A lot of people speculating she's on some type of drugs, she's having an episode, whatever. She's not heard from for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and then she pops up on social media with a brand new Twitter, and she's posting, I mean, she's a, very pretty woman for sure, but she's like posting all this stuff like she's a model. She goes to the Dodgers games. She's supporting the Maui, saying go order this. It's just all strange stuff. And then they ask her about it, like TMZ had her for an interview, and she's like, oh, I can't speak on that. And everyone's like, oh, it's probably her lawyer saying something. I don't think that's what it is. I think she probably signed some type of deal with a network where they're going to be doing some special interview with her, I'm guessing, where she'll reveal what she saw on the plane. I mean, all of this stuff, like these people turn into influencers overnight. It's just so strange and foreign to me as a human being to see stuff like this play out. And then you've got, I thought this was an interesting graph. Now, this is a very long-term right track, wrong track, or is that right direction, wrong track of the United States. And it's funny to me how, if you look at it, going into 2020, going into the election, Biden gets into office and the right track goes way up, almost like to 42, 43%, and you look at where it's tailed off now, and it's virtually lower almost than when the pandemic started. So it's actually, Biden is performing worse than Trump did when it comes to the wrong track of the United States. And then we've got a new book from the Biden White House. This is so dumb. Insider has revealed just how bad Biden's mental decline is and who really runs him. Joe Biden is not in control of the Biden administration. Listen, I'll be honest, I would be more worried if they said Biden was in control. Like, how could Biden, you would have to tell Biden the same thing 40 different times just for him to hear it properly, and then with how much he stumbles, it would probably take him 40 minutes just for him to respond with an answer. Obviously, this guy's not doing anything, and I think this is one of the reasons. It's like at a certain point, Americans are not this dumb. You're voting for someone, you're not voting for Joe Biden, you're just voting for the normal Democratic establishment. And I think even Democrats can agree with that. And listen, if you still want to vote for that over Trump, that's fine. But you at least got to admit that's what's going on here. You would hope that they would. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.